After defining the Shakti relation in his Siddhanta Muktavali, Vishwanatha anticipates and answers an objection against this definition. It can be objected against the narrow definition that Vishwanatha's definition is not applicable to the new names which are coined on various occasions. For instance, whenever a boy or a girl is born, his or her parents or family members name the child. By this naming, by this institution of naming, a relation of denotation is established between the name given and the child. So, a word meaning relation is established by this institution of naming. Here, the name is given by the desire or the choice of the family members. The name is desired by either the parents or by some other family member. Thus, the relation between the name and the child is established not by any divine desire, but by the desire of the parents or that of some family member. Thus, in this case, divine desire has nothing to do with the relation between the name and the named individual. The relation between the name and the bearer of the name is not established by any divine desire in such cases. In such cases, the relation between the name and the bearer of the name is established by the desire of some human being, by human desire. So, if Ishwarecha is considered as the definition of the Shakti relation, then that definition will not be applicable to the relation which obtains between such modern names and their reference. Because the relation between such modern names and the bearer of such names is established by some human desire. Thus, the definition of the Shakti relation as mentioned by Vishwanatha is a too narrow definition. It suffers from the defect of undercoverage. To answer this objection, Vishwanatha himself states in his Siddhanta Muktavali, आधुनिके नाम्नि शक्तिर अस्तीव एकादशे अहनि पिता नाम कुर्याद इति ईश्वरेच्छाया सत्वात्. What does this mean? This means that in case of such modern names also divine desire exists. So, divine desire has a role even in case of such newly coined or newly given names. But how does divine desire play any role in establishing the relation between the name and the bearer of the name? In answer to this question, Vishwanatha refers to a particular scriptural statement, a Shruti Vakya, namely Ekadashe Ahoni Pita Nama Kuriyat. This statement of the Vedas, which is an injunction and a positive injunction, states that when a child is 11 days old, that is, after 11 days from the birth of a child, the father of the child will give a name to the child. This, being a scriptural statement, is a formulation or is a composition by God Himself. Why? Because the Naiyayikas believe, the Naiyayikas subscribe to the thesis that the Vedas are composed by God. The Vedas are authored by God. So, any injunctive statement found in the Vedas incorporates or embodies the desire of God. God wills or God desires that human beings should act in such and such a manner, should follow that injunction and should act in such and such manner. Thus, an injunction or a Vedic imperative is actually a divine desire. God wills or God wishes us to follow these injunctions and to act in a specific manner. Thus, divine desire has a role to play even in case of such modern coinage of names. But then, an earlier objection may be raised in this context also. It may be objected that God's desire resides in God. It is a quality of God. It inheres in God. Thus, a divine desire cannot exist in the Word. But unless the divine desire exists in the Word cannot be treated as qualified by the Shakti relation. But if the Word is not qualified by the Shakti relation, then the Word cannot be considered as Shakti Yukta or as Shakta. We have already observed in the earlier lectures that a word is defined by the Naiyayikas as Shaktam Padam. That is, something can be treated as a pada only if it is Shakti Yukta, only if it is qualified by the Shakti relation. A word can be qualified by the Shakti relation only if Shakti resides in the word, but Shakti in reality is a divine desire. How can the divine desire reside in the word? We have shown that the divine desire also can reside in the word by means of certain indirect complex relations, because both the word and the meaning of the word can feature or can figure as the Visheshyo or the qualificant of the Shakti relation. And being the Visheshyo of the Shakti relation, the word will be qualified by a certain property. In most cases, we have seen that the property is being the cause of a cognition which has this object, this entity as its object. And the delimiting quality which resides in that qualifier determines the qualifierhood inhering in the qualifier. And the qualifier qualified by that kind of qualifierhood determines a particular type of qualificanthood. Qualificanthood is a kind of objectivity relation. It is also a kind of Vishayata, which is a Swarupa Sambandha or an essential relation, and the divine desire resides in the word by means of this Swarupa Sambandha, which is the Visheshyata Sambandha or the qualificanthood relation. And of course, the qualificanthood is a specific kind of qualificanthood which is qualified or determined by a particular kind of qualifierhood or prakarata. But what will be the relation by which divine desire will reside in modern names? The author of the commentary Muktavali Sangraha spells out the relation by which the divine desire resides even in a modern name. Acharya Panchanana Shastri writes in his Muktavali Sangraha, Ekadasha dinadhi karanaka putratva samanadhi karana तत्तद बाल पिंडत्व विशिष्ट विषयक बोध जनकत्व वत् पितृभिलषित नामत्व समानाधिकरण चैत्रत्वादि धर्म विशिष्ट चैत्रादि नाम विषयक कृतिमान पिता भवतु इत्याकारक ईश्वरेच्छाया आधुनिके चैत्रादि नाम्नि अपि सत्व प्रतिपादनात् ityartha. Thus, the Shakti relation which relates a modern name with the bearer of that name resides in the modern name. How? Here God wills that let the father of the child have a particular kind of volition or mental act, a mental volition. And what is the form of that volition or kriti? Ishvara or God enjoins that let the father will that this name signify this child. Now the name that is given by the father to his child needs to be qualified by certain properties. The first property which should qualify the name is the name must be desired by the father. That is, not any or every name will signify this child. This child will be signified by a name that is desired by the child's father. The name must be qualified by the property pitravilashitatva, that is, the property of being desired by the father of the child. Besides, the name must also have a specific property, namely Chaitratva or Maitratva. That is, it should be a specific name having a specific property. And the bearer of the name too must fulfill certain conditions, must be characterized by certain properties. And what are those properties which qualify the bearer of the name? Namely, the bearer of the name must be a child in his 11th day. That is, it must be a 11-day-old child. It must be qualified by the property putratva or kanyatva, that is, being a son or being a daughter, and it must be qualified by the property having the body of this particular child, that is, the name is given to a particular child who has this specific body, who is 11-day-old. And what actually does the father of the child will? What is the form of his volition? The father wills that let this name, which is qualified by the property being desired by me or being desired by the father of the child, which also has a certain specific property like Chaitratva or Maitratva, be capable of giving rise to a cognition whose object will be a child having this body and a child who is 11-day-old. So, let the name coined by me have the power of signifying this particular individual having this body and which is 11-day-old. So, this is the form of the father's volition. And God desires that if a certain father has a volition of this form, then a Shakti relation will be established between the name given by the father and the child who is being named by the father. Thus, the divine desire exists in the name too. Because the name also, this name also is the Visheshya or the qualificant of a divine desire. And this name, being a qualificant or being a Visheshya, has a Visheshyata or a qualificant hood. That qualificant hood is qualified by a particular kind of prakarata. That prakarata again resides in the prakara or the qualifier which qualifies that name. That prakarata in turn is delimited by a delimiter or an avachedaka which resides in the prakara. The prakara here is quite a complex one, as we have already said that the name itself should be qualified by more than one properties, namely the first property being a specific name, the second property is being desired by the child's father, and the child also or the named individual also should be qualified by certain properties, namely being an 11-day-old child and having this specific body. Thus, the divine desire rests in this modern name, which has the property being a specific name and being desired by the child's father, and the child's father has a volition of the form that this name having these two properties signify this individual having this specific body and being an 11 and also has the property being an 11-day-old child. So God wills that if the child's father has a will of this form, God desires that if the child's father has a will of this form, then a naming relation will be established between the name given by the father of the child and the child. Therefore, here also the divine desire rests in the name by means of this roundabout or indirect relation. Thus, such modern names also can be Shakti Yukto or can be the signifier of its own denotation or of its own bearer. A further objection may be raised against the Naiyayikos. One might object that even though the ancient Naiyayikos can account for children's names having the Shakti relation in this manner, this explanation will not be applicable to other varieties of modern names. What is the objection? The objection is, all right, the Naiyayikos have been able to account for the Shakti relation that obtains between a child's name and the child. Because the Vedas are composed by God, so an injunction of the Vedas may be looked upon as a divine desire, and God desires that the father of the child let the father of the child have a particular volition, and that volition will establish the naming relation between the name of the child and the child itself. But no such divine desire can be found in the Vedas regarding other modern names, such as the names given to houses, roads, forests, towns, bridges, countries, and so on. There is no reference whatsoever regarding how the naming relation is established between such modern names and their denotations. The Vedas are silent on this point. No Vedic injunction or no Vedic statement can be found to the effect that the name given to a town or to a bridge or to a house will bear the Shakti relation to the named object. Nothing is mentioned in the Vedas about such modern names, such modern coinages of names. To avoid this objection, to overcome this objection, the Neo-Naiyayikas revised the definition of Shakti. That is, the Neo-Naiyayikas take quite a drastic step. They no longer subscribe to the definition of Shakti as Sacha Asmat Chabdad Ayam Artho Bodhyabhyo iti Ishwarichharupa. The Neo-Naiyayikas do not subscribe to this definition of Shakti. What then is the position of the Neo-Naiyayikas? The Neo-Naiyayikas say that the Shakti relation between a name and the named object can be established by any individual. That individual can also be a human being. It is not necessary that all Shakti relations between all words and their reference are to be established by God. Human beings also give names to individuals such as children and also to inanimate objects such as houses, cities, countries, bridges, roads, and so on. And such human desire is also capable of establishing the Shakti relation between the name given and the object of that name or the referent of that name. So, Shakti is any desire and not merely divine desire. To state this view of the Neo-Naiyayikas, Vishwanatha writes in his Siddhanta Muktavali. Vishwanatha also mentions the view of the Neo-Naiyayikas. Vishwanatha writes, Navyastu Ishwar Ichha na Shakti Kintu Ichhaivo Teno Adhunika Sanketitepi Shaktir Astevo Ityahu. Thus Vishwanatha writes that any desire of the form that let this word signify this object can be treated as a Shakti relation. And that desire need not be a divine desire. That desire can also be a human desire. Any desire of this form that let this word signify this object is capable of establishing a Shakti relation between the word and its referent. Thus, if the definition of Shakti is revised in this manner, that is, if Shakti is identified with any desire and not merely with the divine desire, then the definition of Shakti will be applicable directly to children's names given by their parents or given by other family members. And the definition of Shakti will also apply to newly coined names of roads and trees, mountains and rivers, and any and everything for that matter. Any new coinage of name will be capable of establishing the Shakti relation between the name and the named object. Since Vishwanatha ends his discussion on the definition of Shakti here, it seems or it is indicated by his writing that Vishwanatha is in favor of the Neo-Naiyayikas view. For Vishwanatha doesn't salvage the ancient Naiyayikas view when this last objection is raised against it. So, Vishwanatha doesn't salvage the ancient Naiyayico's position. He never says that the ancient Naiyayico definition of Shakti can be applied to any modern name, not merely the name of a child. It can also apply to the names of roads, to the names of towns, to the names of cities, to the names of rivers, to the names of bridges, and so on. Thus, any and every new coinage of word establishes a Shakti relation between that word and the primary meaning of the word, and no divine desire is required for establishing this Shakti relation between a word and its referent. The Shakti relation can be established even by human desire. Just as we have seen, if the father of a child desires that let this child be characterized by this name, then the old examinations, at least the marks brought forward from the old examinations, will no longer be done. Marks can no longer be carried forward from the earlier semesters, and the final semester examination will probably be held on some future date. This completes the discussion on the definition of the Shakti relation. I stop here. My portion of Bhasha Parichheda is completed both in Bengali and in English. Bhasha Parichheda, the subsequent portions of Bhasha Parichheda, starting from the various means of ascertaining this Shakti relation, will be discussed by PG Sir. Thus, PG Sir's portion starts just where my portion ends. There is no discontinuity between my portion and PG Sir's portion. My portion ends with the line Teno adhuniko sanketitepi shaktir astevo ityahu. This is the end of my portion, and I have finished covering this portion in English too. So here the lecture series on Bhasha Parichheda Shabdakhanda ends.